Before we came to Spain, we had never heard of such a city. But when we asked the locals, they all told us, visit Ronda. Therefore, we were actually very intrigued, going to this small mysterious town, which was able to conquer all the Spaniards with its beauty. And looking ahead, I will say that it also managed to enchant us, because it is one of the most amazing and picturesque places in Andalusia, in which you feel as if you have returned back in time. Ronda is only an hour-and-a-half drive from Malaga, and the route runs through picturesque serpentine roads. By bus, it will take you about 2 to 3 hours. But as a bonus, Spanish buses are very cheap and comfortable. In this small town, you won't need public transport. All the most interesting places can be reached on foot without any problems. Tourist Ronda is conventionally divided into two parts, the old Moorish settlement, and the newer city, which was built after the Christian reconquest from the Moors. We decided to start our journey not traditionally from the old city, but from the new part of it, in the gardens of Alameda del Tajo. And not only because the coolness of beautiful plants and aromatic takeaway coffee is the perfect way to start your day and get ready for a great walk. It is just here that you will be able to see one of the most unique panoramas of the surrounding mountains and valleys from a bird's-eye view. Standing here, on a small balcony hundreds of meters above the ground, it is so easy to forget about all the problems of today, and to imagine the entire centuries-old history that literally permeates this land. Despite its size, Ronda is considered one of the oldest cities in Spain, as even traces of prehistoric Neolithic settlements have been preserved here in the rock paintings of the nearby Cueva de la Pileta. But the Celts were the first to establish the city here, back in the 6th century BC, and called it Ronda. Later, the Phoenicians built the city of Acinipo nearby, and the Romans recaptured these lands in bloody battles in the Punic Wars, and made Acinipo a large municipality, which was even allowed to mint coins. Ronda itself served for the Romans as a fortified point for the army, which gradually also turned into a municipality. However, with the decline of the Roman Empire, both cities were plundered and destroyed. Since the 6th century AD, Acinipo has remained in ruins, while Ronda, with the arrival of the Moors, began its greatest flourishing, because it was transformed into the capital of an independent kingdom, under whose control the entire region ended up. All Roman and Visigothic buildings were replaced by Muslim ones. Mosques, Arab baths appeared in the city. It was surrounded by high protective walls, which were perfectly preserved due to the fact that they were not destroyed, but only repaired and strengthened over the centuries. While most hikers choose the route on the walls, we chose one of the trails along them, which not only allows us to preserve this ancient fortification for future generations, but also gave us a better idea of their scale. Besides, here we got some of the best photos, being virtually alone with the story, away from the annoying crowds of people. Archaeological excavations of the Arab bath, a rudiment unique to Europe, can also be seen in Ronda for a small fee. In addition to the atmospheric vaulted rooms of the 13th century, you will be shown a video, available in several languages, about Muslim bathing traditions, as well as the Moorish custom of washing and praying before entering the city. Therefore, a public bath and a mosque must have been located near the main gate. Mondragon Palace, which now houses the Historical Museum, was built in the 14th century by the Moorish ruler Abimelech as the residence of the rulers of Ronda. But when the Castilians expelled the Muslims from the Iberian Peninsula, Felipe II gave this house to Captain Don Melchor de Mondragon, whose name it bears to this day. But thanks to the active efforts of Catholics to erase all traces of the Arab past on these lands, almost nothing Moorish remained in the building, unless the layout of the courtyard and completely Arabic gardens. But the building itself simply fascinates with its architectural sophistication, with original features and details, making this palace a must-see in Ronda. And of course, incredible views of the gorge await you here, which are very difficult to get used to and stop admiring. The rule of the Moors on the Iberian Peninsula was accompanied by the flourishing of art and philosophy. They tried to create harmony and beauty in everything. That's why every structure they built, every element of decor, were perfectly measured. The house, which was built in the very center of the city on the slope of the mountain, is evidence of how the local nobility, contrary to tradition, admired the ancient Moorish past, and especially the grandeur and charm of the Moorish palaces. This building is called Casa del Rey Moro, House of the Moorish King. Despite its name, it was built as early as the 18th century, on the site of the former Moorish palace of Emir Badis, for the Marquis Salvatierra family. At the beginning of the 20th century, it was sold to Duchess Parcent, who expanded and renovated the palace in the neo-Mujar style. She entrusted the French landscape designer Jean-Claude Forestier to design hanging gardens in the Arabic style. The palace, unfortunately, has not been preserved. Now it looks like only a decoration for the gardens, where garden tools are stored. But it is very interesting because the different levels on which it is built repeat the curse of St. Dominic Street, and the interior resembles a labyrinth with many stairs and corridors. However, the most impressive part is hidden under the palace, in the bowels of the mountain. The so-called water mine, which is a relic of the Moorish occupation of Ronda. It was built in the 14th century on the line of fire between the Moors of Granada and the Christians of Seville. There is a legend that it was created at the request of a Moorish princess, daughter of King Abimelech, who wanted to bathe in the river without prying eyes. Or that the king hid his gold there. Although the reality, as always, is much more prosaic, the mine was built simply to deliver water from the Guadalquivir River to the city. Be sure to download the audio guide from the link at the entrance when visiting Casa del Rey Moro to listen to an interesting and atmospheric audio play about the history of this place and the plight of the Christian slaves who were forced to dig the tunnel and die in the process. For whole days, sometimes in complete darkness, and sometimes catching the dim light that barely reaches the bottom of the gorge, they went up and down with heavy leather bags on their shoulders, overcoming the same 300 steps that tourists walk now. Among the mysterious places you will encounter on your way will be the Chamber of Secrets, so named because of its unique feature. If two visitors stand on the edge of a domed room and start a silent conversation, the person standing in the center of the room will not be able to make out a word of their dialogue. And at the bottom you will find the real pearl of this place, the crystal water of the Guadalquivir River, which sparkles at the bottom of the gorge, and gives this place real intimacy and mystery. In fact, this site, where the stairs of the tunnel fall into the river, marks a legendary turning point in the history not only of Ronda, but of the entire south of Spain. Christians who participated in the Reconquista in the 15th century were able to expel Muslims from almost the entire territory. Only one city turned out to be a real impregnable bastion for them, Ronda, which was located in a strategically advantageous position on a mountain from which the entire district was visible, and surrounded by high walls that could not be overcome. But the forces of the Reconquista found out about the weak point of Ronda, the water mine, and in 1485, having surrounded the city, they occupied it, leaving the townspeople without water supply. After just 10 days, dying of thirst, Ronda could not stand it and gave up. In this way, the last stronghold of the Moors in Spain was conquered. The winners distributed the lands among the knights and nobles who participated in the conquest. They turned mosques into churches, particularly the Iglesia de Santa María de la Encarnación la Mayor, the largest and most majestic temple in Ronda, grew on the site of the Great Medina Mosque in the 14th century. Although the latest archaeological data indicate that the Medina Mosque itself was also built on top of an older Christian church of the Visigoths, and in turn, on the ancient Roman altar, the Temple of Diana, which was built in honor of the victory of Julius Caesar over the troops of Pompey, in the Battle of Munda in 45 BC. As you can see, almost all the most magnificent temples of Spain have a much older history than it sometimes seems at first glance. And that makes it even more interesting to explore them. The characteristic tower and front facade make the Church of Santa Maria la Mayor look more like a town hall than a temple. The main door leads to a small vestibule, where you can see one of the original columns of the cathedral, built immediately after the victory of Ferdinand and Isabella in 1485 over the Moors. Unfortunately, the rest of the cathedral was destroyed by an earthquake in 1580, so the cathedral we see now is more of a replacement for the original church. But nevertheless, it is very ancient and capable of impressing with its beauty both inside and outside. One of the pearls of the church is the fresco depicting Christopher Columbus, painted by one of Ronda's famous artists, José de Ramos. A deep ravine divides Ronda into the old Moorish city and the relatively modern El Mercadillo, which was built after the Christian reconquest. Currently, both parts of the city are connected by 3 bridges: Puente Viejo, also known as the Roman Bridge, Puente Árabe, and, of course, Puente Nuevo, New Bridge, the most famous and impressive monument of Ronda, a real business card of the city which can be easily guessed in any photo. It looks like a stone giant carrying a small white town on his shoulders. Its height is 98 meters, and when you look down, your head is dizzy with delight. Although, in order to truly understand all its greatness, you need to look not from above, but from below. The point you need is called Mirador de María Auxiliadora on the south side of the gorge. You can easily find it on the map. The trail down here is pretty obvious, and you'll know where to stop when you see this stunning view. Only from here, you can appreciate how tall and impressive Puente Nuevo is, as well as see the beautiful waterfall of the Guadalquivir River, which flows directly under the bridge. In fact, this bridge was the second attempt to connect the old city with the new. The first arch was built in just 8 months in 1735, and soon it collapsed, killing about 50 people. The construction of the new bridge took 30 years of work. It was built from stones that were taken from the bottom of the Tajo River, and this view will take anyone's breath away. After waiting in line at various vantage points to take the best photos, we move on, through Plaza España, the main center of the new city, where the best and most expensive restaurants are located, to the place dear to the heart of every Spaniard, Plaza de Toros, the birthplace of modern bullfighting. It is here that Spain's first large bullring, built in 1785, is located. The Spanish adore bullfighting. For them, it is not just a sport, but a separate form of art. And although bullfighting is banned in most regions due to its brutality, here in the south, in Andalusia, this type of entertainment is still in high demand. Never tell the Spanish that bullfighting is wrong and inhumane to animals. They will not understand you. For them, both bullfighters and bulls are the real heroes of the arena, just as gladiators were once revered in ancient Rome. Although bullfighting originated from a completely different direction, it was a form of military training for medieval knights. Mounted on horseback, strong metal-armored warriors battled the mighty noble beast, honing their skills for future battles with the enemy. Gradually, their fights with bulls turned into real spectacles, and have evolved somewhat to the present day. The bullfighting museums you can visit in the Plaza de Toros teach you to appreciate this part of Spanish culture and show how important it is to these adventurous people. At the Real Maestranza de Caballeria Museum, you can see the ancient weapons, uniforms and armor used by the knights who were trained here. This is an impressive harness of the royal cavalry of different countries. Interactive maps and films will tell about the history of the Ronda Equestrian Club and refined caballeros on horses in all their beauty and grace. It was from them that the bullfight started. Therefore, even today, the career of any matador begins with learning to ride horses. Museo Torrerino, or Bullfighting Museum, looks like a shrine to the famous bullfighter Pedro Romero, who in the 18th century established the rules of modern bullfighting. Here you can see various engravings, costumes, and memorabilia of the famous matadors who performed in the Plaza de Toros for centuries, and were real heartthrobs in their unsurpassed costumes. Also, here you will learn the stories of female bullfighters who were able to achieve great success in the arena, hiding that they belonged to the fairer sex. The drawings of the famous Spanish artist Goya show that he was a clear enthusiast and adored bullfighting. The famous writer Ernest Hemingway was also an ardent supporter of this type of art, which inspired him to write works. And the queen of pop music, Madonna, filmed her music video for the song Take a Bow in this arena in 1994, where she performed with the Spanish bullfighter Emilio Muñoz. Stroll through the yards where the bulls are led before they enter the ring and learn about the rituals that precede each fight. You will also have the opportunity to visit the arena itself, feeling all the energy of this place. As you stand here, imagine the tense atmosphere that occurs during a battle. How would you feel if you had to face a huge, powerful bull? The grandeur of this territory is truly impressive. And in this arena, there are places of honor for the Spanish royal family. They differ little from other places, except for modest inscriptions that indicate their affiliation. Before exiting, don't miss the decadent little chapel, where bullfighters pray in solitude before entering the arena. In this room, you feel some kind of moral heaviness, especially remembering that several matadors in this arena lost to the bulls and died under their powerful horns and hooves. Matadors understand that for them every battle is a risk of their lives. You never know how everything can end and who will be the winner. Maybe today the bull will become the hero of the arena again. But the success and glory that await the matadors in case of victory are worth fighting for. After leaving the famous arena, we go for a walk through the winding narrow streets of Ronda, where every corner opens another surprise. It seems that the entire history of this city is steeped in endless struggle and many mysteries. At the beginning of the 19th century, the French occupation caused great damage to Ronda. They destroyed the castle, aqueducts, and walls. The city was on the verge of a terrible famine. It was at this time that groups of people who are said to have formed from bands of guerrilla fighters coalesced into gangs of the legendary Bandoleros, the Andalusian counterparts of Robin Hood, who terrorized the region. El Tempranillo, the most famous bandolero, even said, "The king may rule in Spain, but here in the mountains I rule." By their actions, the robbers inspired romantic writers to write many novels of that time. And thanks to this, the romanticized Ronda entered the Grand Tour of Europe, which was popular with young people of the upper class. At the beginning of the 20th century, Ronda was the site of many battles during the Spanish Civil War, and a famous scene in Ernest Hemingway's novel For Whom the Bell Tolls tells of a real-life event when Republican partisans threw fascist sympathizers here from a cliff into a gorge. Today, Ronda has finally received a well-deserved rest, and has once again turned into a mecca for romantic tourists who come here to experience the atmosphere of the Middle Ages, which seems to be, and still is felt in these ancient streets. Time seemed to freeze here in all its flawless beauty,